Well, hi everyone. It's me and Coach Leanne, and we are here once again on our live public Facebook page. We just want to give you fair warning that this is public information, public place, public space. But we would just love to hear from you. Today, we're going to talk about overwhelm. How many of you, not overwhelm, overfunctioning? How many of you feel like you are doing too much? I don't feel that way lately, but I'll tell you, most of my years, I have felt like I am doing more than I should be. Well, I feel like I should be doing it all. That's what I felt like and told myself, but I felt pretty resentful and angry at having to do it all and feeling like, why do I have to do it all? So thank you, Kathy, for letting me know that you're here. You're from Alberta. Thank you. That's a long way away from Phoenix. So you're still maybe a little cold, and I am pretty darn warm, and it feels lovely here, but welcome. I'm so glad you're here. We would love to hear from you. What do you define as overwhelm? What do you define? Not overwhelm, overfunctioning. What do you define? It becomes overwhelming. What do you define as overfunctioning? When do you know that you're overfunctioning, and what emotion besides exhausted, what emotion besides exhausted lets you know that you are over functioning? And what does it exactly mean, over? Because all of us want to be good stewards. All of us want to do a good job. All of us want to be, a person who contributes. All of us want that, have life of purpose. So what does it mean to over? We want to function, but what does it mean to over function? And how do we know we're doing it? What does it feel like when we're over functioning? So I just want to see where people are. Where you're from, resentful. Linda says, yeah, that's my red flag.
I love this word, Leslie. Flabbergasted.
Yes.
Flabbergasted. And there's something I call it, I have the dis-ease of overing. So I would love to hear. I just want to ask how, when you heard Leslie say over functioning, how many of you could so relate? And all of a sudden you went, my word, I am so glad I am here tonight because I am an overer. I would love to know if there are any other overers here in this space. Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, me. I see some me's.
Yeah.
We can
taking on things that I was never meant to carry. Yep, exactly. Fixer of everyone else's problems. And I do too much and I get irritated. Sherry says to enable or do for others what they are capable of doing for themselves. So you've got the definition down pretty well, girlfriends. So why?
Why do we do it?
Why do we do it?
Why do we do it? One thing that I have one thought. May I share one thought that I think?
Yeah.
And I was taught it in my church. I was taught it in Bible studies. I was taught it all kinds of places, books that I read, that Christian women, it was a belief I held, Christian women should be self-sacrificing. All right. And that can have a lot of fingers, but that is one belief. What do you think about that one, Leslie?
I think that's a virtue that has been heralded as universal for Christian women, that self and sacrificial service is a wonderful quality when you're doing it for the right reason. But when we're doing it for because someone told us we had to, or because we have no self or no self-respect, and we're just trying to earn someone's love by sacrificing for them or to enable them to continue to sin, isn't a biblical reason. But I got the same thing. Like, I felt bad, selfish, if I would say, well, what about me? What about me? My needs matter. If I even thought that, I would feel guilty. I would feel selfish. I would feel like a bad Christian. And so it's easy to fall into, I have to be the servant, the sacrificial one. I have to put my needs last. That Jesus, others, you acronym. Yeah, that was big in my growing up years in the church. And so if you would put yourself above that or ahead of that, even in terms of just basic self-care, like, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I need to go to sleep, and someone else needed something from you, I'm right there. I'm over functioning.
Right. Well, and then it could be coming from a place of obligation as opposed to, this is who I am, therefore I want to serve. We can get stuck in that headspace and we can feel obligated, like we should do something. Mm-hmm. And so we're coming from that space because of a belief that we hold, our motives aren't pure. How many of you have how many of you have said yes when you wanted to say no because you thought you should? Because you were afraid perhaps of what other people would think of you if you didn't do it. I have been in that camp. I have been
Here's
in
a
that.
place, Leanne, where I overfunctioned quite a bit, or at least I felt I needed to. So I put it on my back that my family, not only my immediate family, my children and my husband, but my parents who didn't live near us and my in-laws that didn't live near us, that I had to create this magical Norman Rockwell Christmas. Like I didn't have good Christmas memories growing up. So we were going to go cut down the real tree and we were going to bake cake for Jesus and we were going to make homemade ornaments and we were going to sing carols as a family while we decorated the tree and all of this.
Norman Rockwell.
Yes, and take not only that, but take video of this while the children were doing this so that we could send it to the grandparents who weren't able to be with us. And it was a nightmare every single year. No, we don't want to cut the tree this year. No, we don't want to help decorate. This is too much work. And I'm like, how can you take a video of this? This doesn't even sound good because the kids are whining and the parents are yelling. And it's like, and the Christmas tree's falling down because it's too big for the house. And it just got to be like, why am I doing this? Like, it was such a burden for me that everybody had to I had to be in charge of creating this wonderful experience for everybody that didn't really matter all that much to them.
It didn't. And I love that you brought that up. I so appreciate your stories and just you being real with us. And, something that came up for me when you were saying that was I can fall into the same trap. And I was of the belief that my worth was determined by what I did as opposed to who I am in Christ. And so that was a huge trap for me when it came to overfunctioning. Because I thought if people saw me doing more, then I must be more worthy. And that was a big trap for me because I thought productivity, that overfunctioning was a virtue that and that virtue, it cost me a lot. It cost me a lot.
Leanne, I'm so glad you said that because in addition to sacrificial giving, which is kind of the Christian virtue for a woman, also I think busyness has been seen as a virtue. And I remember when I was spinning 50 plates, I was raising children, I was speaking, I was counseling, I was writing books, I was, my head was spinning a million different directions, but people would admire that. They would say, oh my, you must be doing so much of the Lord's work because you're so busy. And I think to myself, are you kidding me? I'm falling apart sometimes. I don't think I'm supposed to be this busy. I'm a wreck. I feel tired. I feel exhausted. I feel cranky. I'm yelling at my family. This isn't a virtuous thing, but we sort of get an ego boost when everyone applauds us for, oh, wow, you're doing this and you're doing that and you're teaching this and you're teaching that and look at you. And it kind of gives us this false sense of adequacy, this false sense of we must be doing something right for God, or and meanwhile we're not. Our relationships are crashing. We're cranky. Our body is tired, and we're not listening to that. We're not listening to that because everybody's telling us we're good for doing all this.
Right. And for those of us, me included, who words of affirmation are kind of your thing. So do I have any words of affirmation buddies in the space? So we can look at all of that as that's where we get our worth and our value. And we have this need to prove ourselves, to prove our worth. So we can overfunction to try and prove that we belong, to try and prove that we have value, to try and prove that we have reason to exist on this planet. And I get to earn the space that I'm in because of that. And so we have that constant pressure to prove something to somebody.
And how many of you gals, I assume most of you are women who are watching, at least the names on the Facebook feed are women. How many of you, and again, I'll admit to this, I'm older now, so I've gotten past a lot of this, but in my 40s and 30s and, got through it in my 40s, but how many of you struggled with this? I'm not enough. Like I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not spiritual enough. I'm not doing enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not thin enough. I'm not organized. I mean, it was this whole not enough syndrome that kept me spinning the plates. Like somehow I have to prove, even just to myself, but to others around me, that I'm worth something, that I'm worthy by doing more and taking on more. And, it's a crazy lie that we buy into, but we do buy into it.
We do. And we not only buy into it, then we sell admission tickets to other people. Because when we think that we have to prove something, we get on the hamster wheel of over functioning. And then, Leslie, I think one of the things that's really scary, and was for me earlier in my years, and it can still sneak in, is that when I'm over functioning, then the people around me can get used to me over functioning, and then they start under functioning. That, and my over functioning has a cost, and it can enable other people not to take responsibility for themselves. So not only am I taking responsibility for me by over functioning, I'm taking responsibility for other people. And that's a dance that I tripped and fell multiple times. I'm grateful that I'm kind of stepping out of that, but it's a trap for a lot of us Christian women.
I think it is. And so I think we've given a good definition to what it is. I think we've kind of looked at maybe why we do some of it. I think, you said these words of affirmation, and that's not my love language, words of affirmation. Mine is more acts of service. But I think that there is an ego boost, whether someone says it or not, that if I can be the hero of your story, if I can fix you, if I can help you, if I can, support you, if I can do for you, even if you should be doing it for yourself, I feel good about me. I tell myself that I maybe even am smarter or wiser or more important than you are. And so I can, tell you what you should do to fix your life, like as if I'm the boss and I'm the wiser one. And I think we get into a place sometimes where, as Christians, we also think that it's our responsibility to fix someone else, to rescue someone else. And that's why we have so many women in destructive marriages who get caught in this over-functioning for a very immature, dysfunctional, or plain old sinful man. And they're shouldering the financial burden of the family, the parenting burden of the family, the responsibility for, cleaning up the house burden of the family, thinking that this is honoring to God and a good example to the children, when in fact, and maybe even kind of puffing up a little bit on the inside of, look at God, of all I'm doing for my family, and really actually creating more unhealthiness in the system.
Oh, I love that you brought that up. And, it puts us on that cycle of expectation. On that cycle of expectation. And, if other people around us are so used to us over functioning, they're going to expect us to keep doing it. And if we start to pull back a little bit, then all of a sudden they are frustrated with us, saying, well, now you're not meeting my expectations. Yeah. And then we get in that vicious cycle. And that is a spiral. It's a depreciating spiral that can send us into all kinds of different thoughts of unworthiness in ourselves. And that's something, it's a big trap, isn't it, Leslie?
It is. And it really keeps us from healthy relationships, because I remember working with a coaching client, Leanne, and she was extremely depleted because she was just an amazing woman. She was an amazing servant leader in her church. But when she really looked at her life, she had absolutely no authentic relationships, because she was a giver. And so she attracted takers. And we were on the phone one day, and she was kind of a little bit complaining because she had to do a luncheon for this friend who wasn't a friend. She might have been a ministry person, but she wasn't a friend. And she was saying, oh, I have friends. I said, well, let's check this out, because she didn't want to do this lunch. I said, why don't you just text her while we're on the phone, and text her and say, I'm exhausted. I'm having a hard day. I can't do lunch today. And so she did. And I said, let's see what she does. So let's put it in the chat. If your friend texted you, and she was a friend of yours, and she said, Hey, I'm having a hard day. I don't think I can do lunch today. Put in the chat what you would text back if you were her friend. What would you text back? I'm having a hard day and I just can't do lunch. So I'm not going to overfunction today. I'm telling you honestly where I'm at and what I can do and what I can't do. And how do you imagine her friend respond? How would you respond if you were a friend? Okay, no problem. Get some rest. How can I help? I understand. Let me know when a better time works out for you. It's okay. Take care of you. All right. Is there anything I can do to help you? That's okay. When can we try again? That's another time. Okay. So one of the things this woman noticed was that this woman didn't, she said, fine, let me know when you can do it next. So in other words, there was absolutely no concern for what's wrong. How can I help? Can I pray for you? How about if I bring lunch over? Would that help? And so this was an opportunity for her to see that when she couldn't overfunction, maybe not, the relationship wasn't a reciprocal relationship. She was in a ministry relationship with this person, which is great, but she wasn't in a friendship relationship with this person. And so understand that when you overfunction for people, even your own husband or your children, you're not developing healthy relationships. You might be ministering to someone who has a need, and sometimes people do have a need and we give more. But if that doesn't turn back into a reciprocal relationship, we don't really have a relationship with that person. Jesus ministered to so many people. He healed 10 lepers, only one came back. Right? So we can do good for people, but that doesn't mean we're in relationship with those people, even in our own family. So be careful there, because we all want relationships. We're women who want to be connected and cared for too. Cared for too.
Indeed. And, we're created for connection and we're wired that way.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that wiring, we can go into unhealthy overfunctioning. We talked about at the beginning, sometimes overfunctioning can be a beautiful thing, or functioning and operating out of your strengths because your motives are pure, instead of that fear of not being liked or appreciated or seen or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a big one. And so if we put all of our value and our personal worth into whether or not somebody else sees us or hears us, that's a big pitfall for us. Mm-hmm. And I love that you had your client do that exercise in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
In the moment. And then this is where we get to push the pause button for a minute and take a little bit of a self-assessment. Inside of our own hearts and our own minds, our own souls, what is it that we're thinking about? How it is that we engage with the world and show up. Mm-hmm. And then what about the other people in my life? Is it reciprocal?
Yeah. What might happen if you just said no?
Exactly. If your no is no, it's like, and I just want to say, to Nicole, April, Julie, all these folks that are sharing, everybody who's here with us, what would be different this week? It's a Monday. It's a new month. If you just practice saying, no, that won't work for me.
Yeah, no, I can't. What might you see? What might you see and what might you notice in your relationship with your husband? It might be a surprise. What if they said, cool, how can I help you? Wouldn't that be cool? Yeah, wouldn't that be cool?
Sometimes, Leslie, when I have been caught in or on the train of an overfunctioner, for me, there comes a place in my heart and mind where I am so afraid of disappointing somebody else. Mm-hmm. And so I'm afraid that my no will be disappointing. And what I have found, if I have a little bit of courage, I kind of find a little bit more of my brave, and I practice my no, and I say that won't work for me. It's vulnerable. It's risky to say that because some people might look down on you for it, or it might be an opportunity to see how somebody else might respond to your no and say, wow, what's going on? Mm-hmm. And how can I help? Mm-hmm. And why isn't this going to work for you right now? So then it gives somebody else an opportunity to really see you and know you. So you're not putting on a mask and pretending that you're more resilient than you are.
Yeah, there's an interesting verse in Galatians, actually two verses that I think is both and. A lot of scripture is both and. Like we are to forbear with one another's weaknesses, and we are to confront evil and speak the truth in love. It's not only forbear, forbear, forbear. It's forbear and confront, right? And in Galatians, it says, bear one another's burdens, fulfill the law of Christ. So there are times when we carry a heavier load than someone else because their back is broken, or they're sick, or they're old, or they're incapacitated in some way. And so we carry a heavier load than they do because we're carrying their burden. It's a temporary thing, but we do that out of our sacrificial love for them. And then it also says, and so it's this, and each one should carry their own load. That each of us bear the load of being a healthy adult and have healthy adult responsibilities, both for our self-care and the care and stewardship of our space around us, whether it's our house or our job or our car or our finances, whatever it is that God has given us to steward. That's our responsibility to steward that and steward it well. And again, so each one is to carry their own load and we bear one another's burdens. And so how we navigate that is wisdom and discernment. And sometimes we're over bearing someone else's load that should be carrying their own load. And I know in sometimes just being a good mom, you can carry your children's load that they should be carrying. Like no one wipes their kid's butt when their kid is 10, right? Why not? Because that's your kid's load now. This is your butt, your stuff. You learn to care for yourself, and I don't have to do that for you anymore. And if you were still wiping your kid's butt at 10, there would be something wrong with you, and there would be something wrong with them, unless your kid was disabled.
That's
right. Right? And so it's time to transfer the responsibility of this job to your children far before 10 years old, right? But at one point you did it because they weren't capable. And then your job is to recognize when they're capable and give them that responsibility. And when we are over functioning, what we're doing is we're robbing someone else of the opportunity to bear their own load.
Yeah. So good. So beautifully said. So let's say I have a question for you because we've got a lot of folks here and, you know, we're here to serve and love, right? So how do we know when we are enabling versus just helping out?
Well, I think, again, there's two things. Am I doing something for someone that they should be doing for themselves? And that doesn't mean they should, you know, so if someone's saying, hey, my house is a wreck, can you help me clean it? Sure. So here's another story that I had a client whose girlfriend said that. She goes, oh my gosh, I've got so much laundry and I got to go out of town tomorrow. Can you please help me do my wash? Because she was a single woman. She didn't have kids. And this woman stayed home with her kids. And so she had time to do her laundry while she went to work. So her friend said, of course, which any one of us, if we were home and had our washing machine there, we'd say, I can throw in your wash. So her friend threw in her wash and she folded it and she gave it to her in the basket. And she said, oh my gosh, you are a lifesaver. Thank you so much. I have to go to town. I didn't know if I'd be able to get my clothes cleaned before. Thank you. I love you so much. Leaves. The next week, my friend opens her door and her friend's laundry basket is on the front door. Like, do my wash. So now this doesn't, you already know I don't feel good. Like I did you a favor. This isn't something I signed up to do. You already know that she stepped over the line, right? But do you think she said something? No. Oh, she probably needs me. I need to be the good one. I need to be the savior of her problem with her laundry, her time or whatever. I'll do it this last time. So she does her wash and friend comes in. Oh, you are the best. Nobody could have a better friend than you. Thank you. I love you so much. Kisses, hugs, mama, takes her wash. Next week, the laundry's back on the front porch. What does this lady need to do? She needs to speak up. Like, I'm not over functioning and taking your load every week of laundry. You're a single person. I've got 3 kids. I'm not doing your wash. But she couldn't do that. She couldn't do that, right? So what did she do? she locked her screen door so that the woman couldn't put her wash on the front porch, and actually ruined the friendship, because then the person got offended. Like, oh, you don't care about me anymore? Instead of having an honest conversation, it turned into a big mess because someone was overstepping and the woman wasn't speaking up, and she was getting more and more resentful. And this is what happens when we overfunction. Yes, you might do it once for a favor, but then it becomes the expectation and you feel stuck and trapped. That's when you know. That's when you know. Or you're not getting to any of your stuff because you're so busy fixing everybody else's stuff.
That's a big one right there. And, I love that you shared a little bit earlier about busyness and how, that's where being busy for other people and over functioning for other people is a great coping mechanism for not doing any of your own inner work or feeling your own feelings or knowing your value or knowing what it is that matters to you. Yeah. When we give it all away to other people, we lose ourselves. And I know you and I are both here to say, not on our watch, right? We don't want you to lose yourself by over functioning.
Yeah, God doesn't want you to lose yourself. It doesn't even matter what we think. It's God saying, don't lose. When he says die to yourself, and he says, if you lose yourself for my sake, what will you find? Yourself.
That's right.
So it's not like you die to nothing. And it's the picture of a seed, or the seed going into the earth and dying to itself as a seed, not to become a nothing. But God didn't design that seed to stay immature. He designed that seed to break open and die to itself as a seed so it can grow into a big old apple tree or an oak tree or a watermelon plant or a rose bush. And so when we're called to die to ourselves in our immature ways so that we can grow. But this is so important that you recognize that, because the very definition of codependency is a lack of relationship with yourself. And you are so over functioning in making someone else's life work, and you are not tending to your own.
Absolutely. And I think when we do that, and then if it's not reciprocated, then bitterness and resentment can come in. And then we start that pattern again of over functioning, and it just gets to be messy. And I see a lot of the folks in the feed here are resonating with what we are saying. And so oftentimes over functioning can be a form of lying. It was in my life. So when I overed for other people, I was actually lying to myself about my level of importance or value. And I was lying to them, saying it didn't matter that I was doing too much. And so then I wasn't living an authentic life and being honest, because integrity is so important to me.
Right.
And that was
with yourself or with others, right?
Yeah, with myself or with others. And I was pretty worried about what other people would think if I wouldn't show up and do it for them. That there's a quote. What is that quote that says, if you want to get something done, give it to a busy person, right? Because they're already so busy. And so I don't know how many of you here in this space have ever heard that. Well, I'm going to give it to you because you always get so much done. Well, we get to stop for a moment and ask ourselves, is our busyness hurting us, harming us, or is it helping us to be the woman that God created us to be?
Yeah.
That's what we get to ask. Is the way that we are functioning and engaging with the world, does it come out of love, or does it come out of obligation, feeling like we have to, or we've been taught to, or is it coming out of the core of who we are?
Yeah. So we're going to answer your questions in just a second. And if you'd like to answer a question privately on our Facebook page, and you don't want to write the question on the public Facebook page, just go to, let's see, where is that? You want to ask an anonymous question, just go to leslievernick.com/question/. If you'd like to ask Leanne and I a question about this overfunctioning and you don't want to put it on our public page, go to leslievernick.com/question/. And one of our tech people will take that and put it on my computer that I can see it, but it won't be on the Facebook page. But I just want to tell you about a challenge that we're doing. So if you have found this little conversation together helpful with Leanne and I, we are going to do a whole week a Facebook challenge on a private Facebook page. And we're calling it the Moving Beyond Challenge. It's going to start on, it's going to start Monday, June 19th. So 2 weeks from today, it's going to start. You have to sign up to join. It's $23 for the whole week. And every single day, we are going to do an hour Facebook Live on a specific topic and coach you through solving that problem. So I'll tell you what the topics are so that you can see whether this is something that's helpful for you. And I'm going to put right now into our bottom of our feed if you'd like to sign up. It's Moving Beyond Challenge. That's what it's called. But you just go to leslievernick.com/challenge. leslievernick.com/challenge. All right. And that will take you to the page to sign up. So each day you're going to get an email that will tell you the first day of the challenge. So Monday on June 19th, it's going to be, how do we move beyond overwhelm? So we've talked a little about feeling overwhelmed with everybody's busyness towards us, but sometimes we're just overwhelmed in our head. We're overwhelmed with our emotions. We're overwhelmed with everything we have to do, and we have no way of figuring out what's our priority. We're overwhelmed with lots of negative thoughts in our head. How do we take charge of overwhelm? So in that very first day, we're going to give you an email. In that email will be a little bit of a story, as well as about 3 or 4 steps that we want you to take right there, right that day, easy enough to do in about 15 or 20 minutes, to begin to help you learn a tool to get beyond overwhelm. And then that same day, we're going to do a Facebook Live in our private Facebook page, talking just about moving beyond overwhelm. Did you use the tool? How effective was it? Where did you get stuck? How can we help you through that We're just going to talk about that topic. And that's going to be for an hour. The next day, we're going to send you another email. How do I move beyond my negative thoughts? I'm plagued with, oh, you're not good enough. You're always making a mistake. You're an idiot. Why can't you do that? Why aren't you not? Whatever negative thoughts you have, we all have them. But if you are the kind of person who doesn't know how to manage your negative thoughts or doesn't know how to understand what's going on behind the scenes there, then you need to understand that in order for you to get healthy. And so we're going to talk about how do you move beyond your negative thinking, because they create bad moods. So if you've ever wanted to get rid of a bad mood, you just can't shake yourself out of a bad mood. But if you can pay attention to the thoughts that you're having, you can begin to start to challenge them. And we'll teach you how to do that in the email. And then we'll come together on our Facebook Live and we'll talk about it with those who've joined the challenge. So it'll be a private Facebook page just for people who are in this challenge. Our third day, we're going to talk about how do we move beyond our fear of failure? How many of you have not done something exciting and juicy that you think you might have wanted to do, whether it's climb a mountain or kayak or write a book or write an article or go to college or apply for a job, and you've let fear stop you? You've let failure stop you. How do we not let those things stop us from living our abundant life? I think of that story of the steward who was afraid, who lived afraid. And he took the little that God gave him, or Jesus gave him, or this man gave him, and he buried it in the ground. He didn't use anything God gave him, or the master gave him, because he was afraid. That's the last thing that you want to live, is out of fear of failure, fear of not being enough. And so how do we move beyond that? Again, you'll get an email in the morning giving you some instructions on what to do. So you're going to get yourself a journal on this Moving Beyond Challenge. Right in there, come to the Facebook Live. If you're not able to come to the Facebook Live, we're going to be doing it at different times each day so that those of you who might work full time can, come, or those of you who have kids will have different times, but it's all recorded. So if you missed it live, you can show up. And it's an hour long with one of my coaches. I will be there every day teaching you how to do that. The next day, we're going to be talking about how do you move beyond unrealistic expectations? How many of you are stuck in unrealistic expectations? Because of course he should love you. Of course your husband should be honest. Of course he should be willing to be transparent, but he's not. And so how do you live in reality and not wishful thinking? It's not unreasonable for you to want that. It may be unrealistic. So how do you move beyond that? Again, you'll get an email that day with instructions. We'll have a whole hour Facebook Live just on that topic to coach you through that. And then last one is, how do I move beyond people pleasing? We've kind of touched on that a little bit today. There are specific reasons why you are afraid, that you are caught by the fear of man, fear of disapproval, fear of being rejected. all of those things. We will talk about how do you move beyond that. So we invite you to sign up for our challenge. We are asking you to put some skin in the game, just because we have found we already have over 700 people signed up. So last time we did it without charging it, we had over 5,000 people who signed up, and it was just too much to manage. So we thought we'll put a little skin in the game so that those people who pay will hopefully show up, and it won't be as many as 5,000. So we really want you to come. Please join us for this exercise in an hour a day in the middle of June, just to get your head on straight and get yourself on a new path for the rest of 2023. Anything you want to add to that challenge, Leanne?
Oh, I'm just super excited about the challenge. I know I need it. We've touched on those topics. And so, Leslie, what is the date? Oh, I see. Amanda's got it in there. So I just wanted everybody to know when it starts. So
it starts Monday, June 19th. So it'll be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of that week. Just 1 week. Just one week, an hour a day, but not on the public page. It'll be on a private page so that you're a little bit more free to engage in conversation that, things that you want to say. It won't be on our public Facebook page. So nobody can just go there and see your name on there.
Right. And, I just love that we offer that, because it's not going to be public. And so it's going to be people that are committed, just like you, to moving beyond. And so when you heard those topics, overwhelm, negative talk, fear of failure, unrealistic expectations, and people pleasing, which one of those, my friends, are you most excited about? I would love to hear. For me, I think the one that I am most excited about this year, because I love doing this challenge, it is something I put before me each year. I think for me, I'm going to go with the unrealistic expectations. I can expect a lot more out of myself than I have the capacity to give. And I can have an unrealistic expectation about some of the people around me. And so I really want to focus on working on that one. So what about you, Leslie? Oh, I get to ask you too. Which one would be most meaningful for you this year?
I have noticed, and I'm just going to be honest, ladies, that as I'm getting older, I am pretty negative in my thinking about my body and my looks. Like, I'm not happy. I'm getting wrinkles and saggy. And so I can hear myself saying, you got those bags under your eyes. Like when I wake up, I'll see them, or, your hair is getting thinner and thinner, or whatever it might be. And I don't want to treat myself that way. I really, in my good self, I don't want to be so critical. And so I really want to make a commitment to myself that this old body is actually doing pretty darn well. I hiked over 13 or 14 miles this weekend in 2 days. And we went up and down the hills. And I thought, Patty, you really served me well. I didn't have a heart attack. I didn't fall over.
Right. I was driving home going, thank you, Lord. Thank you that you gave me a body. It is less than perfect, but it got me up and down the mountain.
Yeah. And so I want to switch my thinking regarding that part. I didn't have that problem until I started getting older. So, it's really important for us to be honest with each other as women where we struggle. And I think we all struggle with a little vanity somewhere in our life. I didn't struggle with it as much in my younger years, but as I'm getting older, I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm painting a picture of an old woman. I'll have to show it to you. And this is, some of you who've been with me for years, I started taking painting lessons about 3 years ago. And so I'm improving because I'm using my tools, same tools, paintbrush, paint, and canvas. But I'm using them better and better and better because I'm practicing. And that's what we want to teach you. We're going to give you the tools and you're going to use them better and better and better. But I'll show you my picture. So this is my ode to the old woman.
Oh, I can't wait to see it. And, the tools that you will be getting, I just encourage all of you, save your seat. You're not going to want to miss this challenge. This June could be the best you've ever had. Oh my gosh.
Our old woman. She's not done yet. So hopefully I'll get her done before our challenge.
She's amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah. So that's what I want to work on. It's just, I want to stop it. Stop it.
Well, you know what I call those? I call them ants, automatic negative thoughts. And they can come in. And you know what? Sometimes they're fire ants, my friends. And they can really just really burn the house down you're trying to build in the second half of your life. And we get to make some choices on what it is that we think about. And so I am super excited for this challenge.
And I think it's really important, ladies, for all of us to be, one of the things I love about working with women is sometimes we're not really honest with each other about the struggles of whatever, whether it's growing older or whether it's our marriage or whether it's our spiritual life. We all kind of put on this face that we have it all together. And if we have it together in one area, that's wonderful, but we might not have it together in another area. And I think it's okay to talk about that, because if anyone has everything together, guess what? They're full of pride, and God hates that. And so you will never, I don't care how many challenges you do or how many books you read or how long you read your Bible and how long you stay on your knees, you will never have it all together, because God doesn't intend for you to have it all together. Actually, the more mature you get, the more not together you'll see you are. But it's okay, because you know that you're not expected as a limited, finite human being to be perfect. And you're not beating yourself up when you see your imperfections. You just correct them. Like I see this imperfection of this self-talk when I see wrinkles or whatever. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that anymore to myself. I'm going to work on that. That's what I'm going to work on in this challenge. Because when I don't challenge that and I stay stuck in that negative mindset, I feel grumpy the whole day about my looks or about my hair, whatever, my, body, my legs are sagging down to my knees. They never used to do that. So my rear end is sagging down to my knees too. I mean, it's just all going down. Gravity is hitting. And it's just the way it's going to be, right? And so to be able to accept reality, I have unrealistic expectations of what my body's supposed to look like at this age, and it's not going to, right? And so to be able to really settle on that with peace. And so her picture is a joyful old woman, and that's what I want to be.
Amen. Oh, so good. Those negative thoughts and the expectations. Get so wrapped up in those. So wrapped up in those. So,
yeah. So what questions might you have that you'd like us to answer? I'm gonna.
You got a few. Do you want me to read one to you?
I see it.
Okay.
What are some ways? Is that one? What are some ways to communicate you are stepping down from the overfunctioning role, especially when they give you lots of pushback? You want to start with that, Leanne?
Oh, sure. Well, I've had to do this, so I can speak very authentically and vulnerably from personal experience with this one. So one of the beautiful things about doing a challenge like this or having a coach like I had is to say, you know what? I'm doing some work on myself. I realize that I'm not showing up and engaging the way I want to. So I'm working with a coach. And my coach has challenged me to stop over functioning. So if I start saying no more than you're used to, that's why. And I think there's a lot of kindness in that, being really clear about why it is you're doing what you're doing. I'm going to own, I'm having some unrealistic expectations. I'm putting some shoulda, woulda on you. And I don't want to do that anymore. So I'm going to do that. And if I'm getting some pushback on that, I'm going to say, well, thank you for sharing your thoughts. I'm on my personal journey of growth. And so I'm going to practice this. And I hope you're okay with that. And I'm asking you for some support. What else would you add, Leslie?
I think that's beautifully said. And I think it depends on the relationship that you have with those people. So I think if they're your immediate family, like your children, especially adult children, who have expectations that you're going to be, grandma every day and you're going to come and do their dishes and all of those whatever it is that might be. Yeah. So if you've been in a long-standing pattern with someone where you have overfunctioned, and then you're going to change the rules all of a sudden, they're not going to like it, right? So I think it really is helpful to talk about you, just like you did, Leanne, instead of them. Instead of saying you have, pressured me into doing this, or you have twisted my arm to saying yes and I don't want to, or I'm feeling resentful, to be able to say, hey, I have learned that I haven't always been honest with myself about how much I could do or what I might else want to do. And I only have limited time. And I've decided that I want to take a painting class. And so I'm not going to be able to watch your kids this summer. Those would be ways to, it's important for me to get some things of my dreams and my goals in my lifetime. So I think those are ways you can talk to your adult children. If it's a husband that you've been overfunctioning with, I think you can say, I don't think I've done you any favors. I thought I was being the good wife by picking up all the pieces. But I think actually I've crippled you by making you think I can always do it better than you. And and then it's always on me, and then I resent you. And that hasn't been fair to you. So instead of blaming them for it or blaming, their inadequacy and I had to pick up the pieces, maybe I just didn't trust that you could do it. and I started taking over, and we just developed this nasty pattern about this. And I'm exhausted, and you're, feeling like you're 12 instead of 52. And so I'm going to stop, and I'm just going to do what I think it's supposed to be doing. And I might not do it all right still, but I'm growing and I'm changing, and I'm changing my own dance steps. And I think, explaining why, most people who want to have a healthy relationship will say, wow, I never thought about it that way. Thanks for sharing. And they may still revert back to their old demands, but you can just remind them, we had this conversation. Remember, I'm going to say no now, right? But if they're a destructive person, a user, a taker, a manipulator, they will not like that. And they will try to guilt trip you or shame you or harass you or threaten you or intimidate you into backing down. And that's where you're going to need some extra support and tools. And that's one of the other reasons why we want you to join this support group, because in the Moving Beyond Challenge, you're going to be with everybody who's trying to do the same thing. And so you're going to get some support when you say, oh my gosh, I tried it and it blew up and blah, blah, and everybody's going to say, I know, it happened to me too. This is what I tried. Stay in it with us. Just like you're seeing the support in this group here by different ideas that people have said or different things that they've tried, you will get that all week long, and it'll feel really good.
It does feel really good when we know that we're not alone.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes if we isolate ourselves and stay in our own thoughts, we can stay in that place of overing for the rest of our lives.
I remember when I told you about the whole Christmas thing. So I remember when I had a breakdown. So our Christmas tree, we had like these cathedral ceilings. So of course we had to get a tree that was, 12 feet tall. So then it was too big for our stand. And so we had to anchor it to the wall with a bolt. And I remember sitting in the other room hearing the tree fell over. We had a big hole in the wall. And I was done. I was done over functioning for Christmas. So I don't know if we threw that tree out or we just put an artificial tree up. We never did get the ornaments on that year. We had lights on, but I think maybe automatic lights. We never did get the ornaments on. I didn't bake Christmas cookies for Jesus. I didn't give gifts to the neighbors. And guess what? We all had a pretty nice day.
Because you're still here.
I'm still here. My kids still love me. Nobody got stressed out over Christmas because my grandparents didn't get videos that year. And we all survived, and we learned a very powerful lesson that it doesn't have to be that way. And actually, it can be just fine, keeping it pretty simple. So then after that, I said to my family, hey, I'm not going to be crazy lady at Christmas anymore. So is baking cookies for Jesus really important to everybody? Nope. Okay, let's cross that off our list. Or baking a birthday cake for Jesus. Is, Christmas dinner really important to everybody? Not so much, but Christmas breakfast was. So who wants to take charge of that? Well, my husband decided to take charge of that. Great, you can handle Christmas breakfast, right? So that was off my plate. So whatever was really important to people, they got to, if the decorating the tree is real important, who wants to help? Nobody wants to help. It must not be that important. Right. And so those are the kind of things that I began to do, is saying, hey, if we want to create a Christmas experience together, what would that look like? That feels good to everybody.
I love that, Leslie.
It was much simpler. It was much less than the Norman Rockwell thing, but actually it was pleasant, peaceful, and I wasn't strung out or angry because I had done it all.
Congratulations. And then you get to show up as your best self.
Yeah.
And, I love to ask this question, what matters most? So if you want to stop over functioning, ask yourself that simple question. What matters most right now? Mm-hmm. What matters most right now for me to show up kind, gentle, calm, and then step into that? Because oftentimes what matters most right now is not your over functioning and wearing yourself down, wearing yourself into the ground where you have absolutely nothing left and you're completely depleted. That's not God's best for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have another big question here.
Okay.
Every time I try to create or maintain a boundary or have a different outlook on a situation, my spouse views everything through the lens of rejection and treats me with disrespect or lack of relationship. He's more concerned when I say no sex right now than he is with us having little to no friendship. How do I navigate this on a daily basis? I'm so grateful to be part of Conquer for your support and wisdom.
So those of you who don't know what Conquer is another long-term, yearly support group that we have for women who are in a destructive marriage. This people-pleasing challenge, you don't have to have a destructive marriage. You just can want to work on yourself for these 5 goals of overfunctioning, people-pleasing, fear of failure, and negative thinking and unrealistic expectations. So the question is, my husband doesn't receive my boundaries well. He sees it as rejection. So this comes from a belief that if you really love me, you will always do what I want you to do. And this is a very toxic belief because, it's a belief of a 2-year-old. Like, mommy, if you really love me, you let me stay up late. If you really love me, you buy cookie and let me have candy every night. Mommy, if you really love me, you let me kick me without any boundaries. And so this is a very immature way of thinking. And you aren't going to mature your husband. That's not your job. That's when you would start over functioning. You're not his mommy, and it would make you nauseous to feel like you were having to be his mommy. Any wife that has to play the mommy role to a grown-up disrespects him because you don't want to be his mommy, and it really is hard to kiss him when you're playing the mommy role. So for your marriage's sake, get out of the mommy role. However, that doesn't mean as a wife, you're not his helpmate and you can't give him some constructive feedback. Just understand his immaturity is at a very young level. If he's believing that you have to do everything I want in order for me to be okay, in order for me to be loved, you can't ever say no to me. That's a very immature way of looking at relationships. Okay, so he's never matured beyond that. So I might say to him, I might start with if you have any ability to have any conversation. Wow, I've never heard of that before. Tell me more. Why is it that when I say no to you, it feels like I'm saying I don't love you? If you say no to me, or if I say no to the kids, that doesn't mean I don't love them. What makes you feel like I don't love you just because I say no? Help me to understand that. Now, you're not necessarily going to get a great answer to begin with, but it gives him an opportunity to say, I never thought about that before. Like, why am I so afraid of her saying no? Why is it I read it as a lack of love? Now, he may not self-reflect, but he can't grow unless he does self-reflect. So you're inviting him. You can't make him grow, but you're inviting him to look at himself. Like, why is my well-being so dependent on you doing everything I want? And why do I believe that if you don't do everything I want, I am rejected? Right? That's not anything you're doing, because that's not true in anything. Everybody gets no's in the world. And it doesn't mean we're not worth anything or that we're rejected. But if we believe that we always have to get a yes, I want you, yes, I want you sex, yes, I want to do what you want to do all of the time, or you're going to feel hurt and rejected, that's a terrible bondage to be in any relationship that way, right? And even a mom who's in bondage to her baby eventually says to them, no, I love you, but you can't hit me when you're angry. No, I'm not buying you candy at the store. No, you can't have the cookie before dinner. And they take the risk that their child will mature enough to realize no is part of love, right?
It is.
Has not taken that next step.
Golden nugget right there, Leslie. No is part of love. I don't think I've ever heard you say it with quite that much conviction and tenacity. And I love the spice in your voice when you said that. It really, really is. And that's where boundaries come in. And oftentimes we get stuck in overing because we don't have any boundaries.
Right. And if you never say no to your child, just think about this. Your poor husband in his childhood, I don't know what trauma went through with him or what his mother was like. But if you never say no to your child, and you don't reject them when you say no, but no, you may not bite me when you're angry. I love you, but you can't act this way toward your sister just because she took your toy. When you create boundaries for your child in a loving way, that is loving them. Because you're helping them to mature. You're helping them to learn to function as a grown-up. Now, our role as a wife isn't to be a compliant enabler of immature dysfunction. That's not your role. Your role is to be an enabler of your husband's best self. And you can't define that. Only he can. But if you never say no, he never has a chance to think, wow, thanks for my wife. She put the brakes on something that would have been bad for me.
That's right. I love that you said that, and I'm a grandma of 7. All right. And so whenever I have my grandkids around, if they, then they're 9, well, almost 9 and under, 8 and under right now currently. But if they're, getting whiny and asking for stuff and keep asking and asking and asking, I have something that I say. All of them have heard me say it. I say, you know what? Grammy has funny ears. I can't hear that when you speak to me that way. Let's have a do-over. And it teaches them that I'm not going to over function for them. I'm not going to put up with or enable their selfishness, which is in all of us, and I love them to bits. It teaches them, and it's a gift to them to help teach them how to regulate their emotions, their tone of voice, all of that. And I think if anything we see in this world right now, there are a lot of 50-year-olds that are walking around like 5-year-olds trying to get their own way. And so, and then we can have a lot of fear because we're afraid of somebody else's reaction. And then we start over functioning and we think we can control somebody else's reaction, and we cannot. That's another pit that we can fall in. And that whole rejection piece, I so get it, but that's not something that we can control for someone else.
One thing you can say, another thing you can say is, I love you, but I'm still saying no.
That's right.
So you're giving him an opportunity to decide what he's going to believe. Right? So you're preempting his story that he's going to tell himself. Like, oh, that means she doesn't love me. You're saying, I know where you're going with that. I love you, but I still have to say no. Why? I don't want to have sex with you. I might want to have sex with you, but I'm not going to have sex with you because our relationship is so broken. I don't think that's healthy for me, or I don't feel like I can do this with the right spirit as long as you're still watching porn or cheating on me or whatever it is the reason you're saying no, right? Or because my body is just not healthy right now and I need to heal from childbirth. And my answer is no. It doesn't mean I don't love you, right? So he gets to decide whether he believes you, whether he can grow to maintain someone can love me and still say no to me, or whether, just like any 2 and 3 and 4-year-old child comes to learn, oh, mommy still loves me even though she won't let me have that cookie. Mommy still loves me even though she took my toy away. Mommy still loves me even though I'm in a timeout. That's what children start to learn as they mature. I don't know what happened in his childhood that circuited that learning, but he didn't learn that. But you're not his mommy, so you can't teach him that in a formal way, but you can know where someone's weaknesses are and be able to say, this doesn't mean I don't love you, but I'm still saying no.
Indeed. And I think that when we can not have all that heavy expectation on ourselves, that we have to be all and do all for somebody else, that gives us some breathing room to be you.
Right.
And it also is going to give them the opportunity to be them. So if we can stop over functioning, it really helps other people to take responsibility for themselves as well.
Yeah.
And so, we can still love people through it and love ourselves through the process.
I'm going to draw a picture for you. This is going to be a very immature picture, but okay. So if we believe that I need, with a big old capital NEED, I need something out here. I need you to have sex with me in order for me to feel good. I need you to love me in order for me to be happy. I need you to not reject me in order for me to be okay. I'm not saying we don't want it, but I'm saying when we put ourselves in a position of, I need this or I will die, then we're asking something of someone that they can't do, because you can't be God for someone. So when we want to fill ourselves with something out here that can only be filled by something here, you will always make them disappointed because it's like sugar. It feels good for the moment, but it's never enough. You want more. It's like buying something. It feels good for the moment. I need that bracelet in order for me to feel beautiful. I need that, that ice cream in order for me to feel better. I need that dress in order for me to look beautiful. And how long does it last? It's for the moment, and then it goes away and the emptiness is back. And so if this over functioning is, oh, I've got to keep filling his tank. He's got a hole in his bucket. And I'm like over functioning, trying to fill his tank. And you're getting exhausted. He's still not happy. It's a lose-lose. So if you can be loving to him and kind without over feeling like it's my job to fill his tank in order for him to feel better, and that's his job, to go to God to fill his tank so that he can be stable and whole and capable of loving others. That's the helpmate part of loving someone. So the overing is, I have to somehow fix him because he's not okay. And when he's not okay, I'm not okay. Our job, your job, my job in helping you is, how do you learn to be okay even if he's not okay? Right? If you're going to move beyond people pleasing, how am I going to learn to say no to someone? They're not okay with my no, but can I still be okay? Can I still be okay? Because they're saying, I have to do this. You are not allowed to disappoint me. If you disappoint me, you're bad and I can't handle it. Well, they've got to learn to handle it, because all of us have to handle being disappointed in life, right? Life is disappointing.
Yes,
and if we
is.
can't handle it and everybody has to cater to us so we never feel bad feelings, you're sunk in that relationship.
Yeah. There's no bouncing back there. There's, and there's a big piece of that. So somebody in our feed, where we don't have any more questions on our document, but somebody in the feed asked,
I think there is another question, but go ahead.
Oh, I didn't see another one. I thought I only see two.
Yeah, go ahead, Leanne. We'll answer this one then too.
Yeah. So somebody else just put in there, how do you turn it around? How do you change it?
How do you change? So here's you can't change the other person. So if they're saying, I need you to fix me, I need you to save me, I need you to rescue me, and you buy that, then you're always going to be in an unhealthy dynamic. And so the only thing that you can do is change. It's sort of like when you talk to children, and you don't want to talk to your husband as a child or your parent as a child. But so if your child says, I can't do my homework all by myself, I'm going to fail my science project if you don't do it for me, Mom. I mean, how many kids say that to us, right? And then we come in as the rescuer. What if we said, wow, that'd be horrible. What do you need to learn from this? Like maybe you needed to start your science project a week earlier, because now you've only given yourself one night to do it. So I'll sit with you and listen to some of your ideas. You might say that to your child, but I can't do this for you. You had a whole week or you had a whole month to know the science project was coming up. In other words, you're saying, this is your responsibility. I'm going to fail and it's going to be all your fault, Mom. It's my fault that you didn't do your science project? I don't think so. So you can be loving and kind and corrective with a child. Now, you don't treat an adult that way, obviously, but it's all your fault that I watch porn because you won't have sex with me. And to say, I don't believe that. I'm not having sex with you because I don't feel safe in our relationship, or for whatever reason you have. And your decision to cheat or watch porn is your decision. There's plenty. I don't go watch porn and I'm not having sex. I don't go cheat. So all of us have decisions to make when we're unhappy, right? Just like I don't use the 4-letter words when I'm mad. You might, but I don't. I don't make you use 4-letter words. I don't make you smash furniture. Those are ways you handle your anger. I don't handle my anger that way. I'm just as angry as you are. And I don't choose to act that way. So don't put it on me. That's not my responsibility to handle your anger. Those would be ways that you would talk to him.
Absolutely. And I just love that. Those are great strategies to not overfunction emotionally for somebody else.
And not let him blame you for his lack of functioning.
Absolutely. It's not, that's not on you. Yeah. I've got the other question. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. I am listening to your current live. Thank you. Well, thank you for being here. We're so glad you're here. I'm struggling with a morbidly obese husband who doesn't understand that having sex with him is not comfortable on so many levels, certainly not physically. He lost all his weight to win me, and now, many years later, he has gained it all back and more. And there is not one single thing I can do about it, and it gets worse and worse. He cannot see the connection between his weight and my lack of desire for sex. I don't know what to do.
What do you think, Leanne?
Well, I just want to honor this woman for your bravery of asking this question. I see you and I hear you and I feel you. And it is a struggle. Not only are you struggling to have sex, but you know in your mind and your heart that it's super unhealthy. And so there's so many influencers that go into that decision that you have made. And so I'm curious to ask you, what have you tried to get him to understand? Have you exercised empathy? By the way you phrased your question, I bet you have. I bet you have. And so, he lost all of his weight to win me, and now he's gained it back. And, you can ask him some curious questions. What's going on in you? I care about you. What's going on that caused you not to care so much about yourself? Mm-hmm. I see you. Let's talk about that. So that's one thought. We could do a whole live just on this. Leslie, what would you add?
I want to be really cautious here, because there's a lot of women who are overweight too, and they might be struggling with food addiction and overweightness. And I've gotten emails from husbands who have said, I'm just not attracted to my wife anymore because of her weight. And some of us might feel offended by that, because we're not just objects, we're not just bodies. So I would say two things. One is, sex isn't just about the physical. Sex isn't just about having intercourse. Sex is about intimacy. And it feels to me that you're having a hard time even emotionally being intimate, because you're not talking about your life together. You're not talking about what works to connect. And maybe there's not even a lot of affection or any of that anymore. And so I would take the sex conversation maybe off the topic at this point and just say, can we talk about the state of our marriage? Right? Can we talk about, I don't feel close to you. I don't feel like we have deep conversations. I don't feel connected to you. I don't feel like I don't think you're caring about yourself. And that concerns me. You could drop dead because, you're going to have high cholesterol or have a heart attack. And it scares me. And I see that you're numbing yourself with food, just like if you were seeing your husband numbing himself with alcohol or whatever. You might have an honest conversation about that. And it troubles me that you're not caring about yourself, and yet you want me to be attracted to that. And I'm not attracted. It's not just about the weight. It's about you not taking care of you and you not caring about yourself. And then stop and see what he says about that, to see if, I'm not caring about myself. I've let myself go. Why? So that might be the first intimate, honest conversation that you have, that maybe you both realize that you both have work to do, or he has some work to do that he's willing to do. You can't make him lose weight, but I do think you can invite him to look at what he's numbing and trying to do. It's the same picture. He's trying to fill up something in here externally. And of course, it's never enough, right? No matter what you buy or what you eat or what you drink, it never satisfies long term. It's just a temporary plug until the next time you feel like you need it. And food and drink and buying is the next day, is the next day. And if you keep doing that, you're going to get more and more debt or more and more weight on you, because you're using something on the external to fix an internal problem. So I might just start being honest enough, because that's what sex is. I mean, it's vulnerability, it's transparency, it's naked and unashamed. And so what if you just got naked more emotionally with him and said, hey, it's hard to be physically naked, but we're not even emotionally naked. I don't know you. I don't know if you know you. I don't even know if I know me, but I'm on this journey to know me better. And I'd like you to know me better. And I'd like to know you better. And I don't know that you want that. I don't want to just have intercourse. Right. And so that might be the way to begin a conversation. It might go nowhere, but if he knows that's what you're defining as intimacy, he might not pressure you for intercourse anymore. If you're now saying, hey, there's lots to improve in this relationship, not just about intercourse, but about our relationship. Let's have a conversation. He might say, I'm not ever talking to her again about this.
And that can happen. It's risky to be vulnerable and to invite vulnerability into a relationship if it hasn't been part of the pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And so this moving beyond challenge is going to help you figure some of your patterns out.
Mm-hmm.
What can keep you in overwhelm or negative thinking or fears of failure or expectation or people pleasing. So see that link that's scrolling down below? Save your seat. You don't want to miss this opportunity to walk with us into moving beyond.
Yeah, every single day we will give you a challenge. We've already told you what they are. So if none of those apply to you and you're doing really well, you're never overwhelmed, you're never involved in negative thinking, you're never afraid of failure, you're willing to take risks and try new things, you're never afraid of having some unrealistic expectations or disappointed with people who don't meet your expectations, and you have no problem with people pleasing, then that challenge is not for you. But if any one of those is something for you, it's not $23 a day. It's $23 for all 5 days. You get an hour of time with me and one of our coaches. If you spend an hour with me, it would cost 10 times as much as that. So you get an hour with me, you get an hour with one of my coaches, you see how wise they are, and we are going to help you with these 5 things on this week so that you can get a good start to begin to have some tools. Just like I take my painting class to have tools, and then I learn how to do an eye, or I learn how to do the nostril or whatever. And then I practice. And, just because you have a tool doesn't mean you're good at it. It just means that you now know how to start to learn to practice it. And then we can help you practice it for that season so that you can begin to get your life back and get your mojo back and get your body back in place. And so I think this is so, so important for women to take ownership of their one precious life. It's not just about your marriage. It's also about you and your children. If you're in an unhappy or destructive marriage, your children need at least one healthy parent. And you can be that.
I love, I wrote down the word mojo. How many of you that are hanging with us here in this space would like to get your mojo back? You had mojo. God created you with some mojo. And perhaps there's been some different circumstances in your life that have kind of hijacked your mojo. Mm-hmm. This challenge can help you get that mojo back. It truly can. It truly, truly can. So we hope that we're going to see you in that space. Mm-hmm. It's private. It's a private group, right, Leslie? It's not. So we're going to be interacting, not on this page.
Right. It'll be in a private, it'll be called Moving Beyond Challenge 2023 Facebook group. And you can only get into it by invitation. And you only get the invitation after you signed up for the class and paid your $23 so that we know you're in. And then we will invite you to the Facebook page to be a part of that challenge. And it starts in 2 weeks. So you have 2 weeks. You can invite a friend. You can do it together. So you can let anyone else know this link and say, hey, I'm doing this challenge. You want to do it with me, and have some support to do that with a girlfriend. That'd be great. But it starts in 2 weeks, 2 weeks from today. And we're going to be doing some Facebook Lives this whole week and next week just to kind of let you know what we're doing and invite you to be a part of this challenge. It'll be really fun. This is our 4th year in doing it. Every year, people see some amazing changes. And if you are, just in closing, if you are an overfunctioner, understand that God is calling you to live in peace. He's calling you to live in the unforced rhythms of grace, not in hectic, crazy making, overfunctioning, taking responsibility for people who aren't taking responsibility. And let them experience what it feels like for them to not take responsibility. So when your child gets an F because they didn't do their science project, that can be a huge wake-up call. Wouldn't you rather have them have that in 3rd grade instead of their 3rd year of college because they didn't learn to take responsibility for their own homework and their own learning? Wouldn't it be better for them to learn that lesson of failure? We talk about moving beyond failure. Failure always has lessons to teach us. So don't Prevent your kids from failing. Let them learn the lesson from it. How were you not prepared? How did you not plan for this? Not scolding them and shaming them, but what might you learn from this, right? Even failure, Leanne and I have gone hiking a couple times, and we have gotten lost, and we have had failures of, we didn't bring a compass, we didn't bring a charger for our phone, all kinds of things that said, hey, thank God we didn't end up dead, because our failure could have led to catastrophe. Right. But we learn from our failures too. And so we all learn from them. And so these are things that you can teach people when you just let go of the reins and stop over functioning and let reality be the teacher. You don't have to be the harsh teacher. Just let reality be the teacher. And then say, wow, reality says you can't jump out of the window and fly, right? Reality says you can't not do your homework and still get an A. Reality says you can't spend all your money and still pay your bills. Reality says you can't eat everything you want and maintain your weight. Why is it that we so resist reality, both in our own lives and in other people's lives? So let reality tell us, this is the way, walk in it. That's what God tells us. And when we experience the consequences, they're meant to tell us to get back on the path. And so don't overfunction for someone so that they don't learn how to get themselves back on the path. Anything else you want to say in closing?
Well, Leslie, that was so good. I loved how you summarized that. And I think just in closing, when I have the attitude or posture of overing, what I'm really seeking is control of other people or situations. And so realizing that I have control over me, and you do too, my friends. Mm-hmm. You can shift the way that you show up, but it does take work and it does take practice. And we just warmly want to invite you in. Shake off that control to have it all figured out, to overfunction for somebody else, or to take from something or from someone a gift that maybe God wants to give them through the journey of whatever it is they're walking through. It's really okay to let somebody else take responsibility for them and for you to take responsibility for you.
Okay, so tomorrow we're going to be back on this same channel, and Diana, Coach Diana, and I are going to talk together with you at 12 noon Eastern time on how do you not freeze? Like sometimes when we get overwhelmed, we just freeze and shut down. Or when life gets hard, we just freeze and stop and shut down. How can we push through that frozen feeling? So we're going to talk about that tomorrow with Coach Diana. This is not my private page. I don't have a private page. This is my public Facebook page. When we sign up for the Moving Beyond People Pleasing, the Moving Beyond Challenge, we will have a private Facebook page that only people who sign up to get in. This is my public page. Anybody who Googles Leslie Vernick can come on this page. So we just want to make sure that you know that, so that when you put things on this page, you understand that not that everybody comes to my page, but anybody could come to my page. The page that you're going to be a part of for this challenge, nobody can get on that page except for people who are in the challenge. So Facebook has public pages and private pages. This is my public business page, but it's still public. So just be careful about that when you come to these Facebook places, whoever they are. Just make sure you know whether they're public or private. They're never private unless someone tells you they're private. They're always public. So just be sure that you understand that this is our public Facebook page, that we're just speaking to the groups. And if you want to ask a private question that you don't want to have to put in the Facebook page, we have given you a way to do that by just leslievernick.com/question/. And then you can just type that in, and a feed will come up on your computer that you can just ask a question, not in Facebook. And that way we'll be able to answer it for you, but it won't be showing up in Facebook here. All right. All right. Well, thank you so much, Leanne. Thank you so much, everyone. We will hopefully see you tomorrow at noon Eastern time, right here on my public Facebook page. And we will be talking about the frozen, the trauma response of I freeze. I can't think. I'm just stuck and frozen. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get out of that place. I want to teach you how to get yourself calmed down so that you can move into a more healthy response when life feels hard, because life feels hard for a lot of you, and we know that. All right. All right. Take care. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow. All right. Bye-bye. Thanks, Amanda, for helping.